Welcome back to my channel. To all my amazing viewers, thank you from the bottom of my heart for every like, comment, share, and moment you've spent with my stories. Your support turns ideas into magic and keeps me inspired to create more love, laughter, and joy in every word. You are the real reason this journey is so beautiful. Stay tuned, stay kind, and always believe in stories that make your heart smile. The Upper East Side didn't do tacos. Not the greasy, double-wrapped, foil-covered kind that dripped hot sauce down your fingers and burned with joy. The Upper East Side did caviar, kale, sad air-fried salmon, and that was exactly the problem. Carter Winslow, billionaire tech genius and reigning king of most awkward gala speeches, was starving. Not for a 5-star tasting menu or another flavorless executive meal, he craved something real, spicy, messy, unapologetically bold. So at 11:42 p.m., Carter did something no other man in his $15,000 suit likely had ever done. He ordered street-style tacos from a tiny family-run place in Harlem. He expected a soggy bag and a silent handoff from some nervous delivery kid. He did not expect Charlotte Rockhead. She burst into his penthouse like she owned it. Snow-dusted boots, a pink puffer jacket 2 sizes too fabulous, and curls spilling out from beneath a knit beanie like a queen on her day off. Her lips were full. Her voice was louder than the jazz playing from his smart speakers. And when he raised an eyebrow at her chili-stained gloves, she let him know he was lucky she didn't eat one of those tacos on the way up and that he should be grateful. Charlotte Rockhead didn't do dainty. She did real. She did loud laughs, sass like oxygen, and curves that moved like poetry when she walked. And Carter? Carter had no idea that this one midnight delivery was about to turn his carefully programmed world completely upside down. Carter Winslow sat in the sleek silence of his 37th floor penthouse, tapping his fingers against the quartz countertop like it had personally offended him. The whole place smelled like lavender and glass cleaner, too clean, too quiet, and most definitely too empty. It was nearing midnight, and all his chef-prepared, macro-balanced, protein-packed meals were frozen. Literally. A power glitch had reset the freezer settings, turning his $5,000 gourmet meal subscription into bricks of ice. He groaned and stared at the food delivery app on his phone. Thai? Too heavy. Sushi? Too clean. Vegan sliders? He was already mad. No need to make it worse. Then he saw it. Rockhead's Real Eats. Late-night tacos, plus hot sauce that might kill you. Carter arched a brow. Who names their business that? He clicked anyway. 10 minutes later, the private elevator dinged. His doorman had waved up the delivery. Carter opened the penthouse door and nearly stepped back from the unexpected presence standing there. She was vibrant, a radiant force wrapped in a pink puffer jacket, black leggings, and confidence that practically slapped him. Her cheeks were flushed from the cold, her curls peeking from under a knit beanie like wild vines, and her full lips curled into a wry smile. Delivery for Mr. Tuxedo Pants, she announced, holding up a paper bag with grease stains and pride. Carter blinked. Excuse me, you're him, right? Fancy pajamas, brooding eyes, stressed billionaire vibes. You scream Upper East Side loneliness. He stared at her. Is this part of your customer service training? She smirked. Nah, this is just Charlotte Rockhead being herself. Rockhead? He repeated slowly. Yep. Real name, real food. You want the tacos or not? He opened the bag and sniffed. Spicy, real, divine. But before he could say thanks, or not thanks, she stepped into the foyer, brushing snow off her jacket. Whoa. This place looks like it belongs in a museum. Where's your TV, your couch, your anything with warmth? Carter frowned. You can't just walk into people's homes. Please, you ordered flaming hot tacos in silk pajamas. You clearly need help. Before he could formulate a reply, a gust of wind howled outside and the windows rattled. The city lights blurred behind the swirl of white. Snow's getting ugly, Charlotte muttered, checking her phone. Then she stopped. Oh, great. Road closures. He blinked. Already? Yep. No rideshare, no subway, and my 2003 Honda isn't snowplow friendly. I'm officially stuck. She looked up, shrugging. Guess I'm crashing here. Carter nearly choked. You're what? Charlotte flopped onto one of his minimalist white leather couches like she'd been invited. Relax, tuxedo. I'll stay on this weird couch that looks like it's allergic to comfort. In return, I'll teach you how to eat a taco without using a knife and fork. I don't. He started. She tossed him a wrapped taco. Sit. You're hungry, grumpy, and clearly never had real food in your rich little life. Against every logical bone in his body, Carter sat and bit. His eyes widened. That's incredible. Charlotte raised her brow. You're welcome. They ate in silence for a few moments, Carter on one end of the couch, Charlotte curled up on the other with a smug smile. The tacos were hot, tangy, and rich with spice. Like her. I don't usually entertain guests, Carter said after a while. Charlotte licked hot sauce off her thumb. You don't say. He scowled. Why are you being so charming? Bold? Deliciously blunt? She grinned. I was going to say invasive. Charlotte leaned back, arms behind her head. Look, rich boy, you needed tacos. The universe sent you me. Deal with it. There was something oddly refreshing about her. People usually whispered around him, tried to impress him, or treated him like walking money. Charlotte didn't flinch, didn't care. She had sauce on her sweater and still looked like she ran the world. Outside, the snow thickened, painting the windows in white noise. Carter stood and grabbed a plush throw blanket. He tossed it at her with a sigh. You can take the couch. The guest bedroom's made up, but something tells me you'll complain about the linen count. Charlotte snuggled into the blanket immediately. Cashmere. Finally, something in here with feelings. He shook his head and walked toward his bedroom. But just before turning in, he glanced back. She was already asleep, mouth slightly open, one hand still clutching a taco. Her cheeks glowed softly in the lamplight. Peaceful, unbothered. Carter smiled, just a little. Maybe tacos weren't the only thing he'd needed tonight. Carter woke up to the smell of butter, cinnamon, and danger. He shuffled out of bed in plaid pajama pants and a hoodie, pausing when he reached the kitchen. There, in all her glory, stood Charlotte Rockhead, dancing barefoot on his marble floors to a 90s R&B playlist, flipping French toast on his custom chef-grade stovetop like she owned the lease. What the hell are you doing? He asked, blinking through sleep. Charlotte didn't even flinch. Making breakfast. Your fridge was sad. I fixed it. You went through my kitchen? She shrugged. Man had 15 eggs, 0 joy, and 3 different bottles of sparkling water labeled for guests only. I took pity on you. Carter stepped in cautiously, watching her swirl a frying pan like it was choreography. You can't just take over someone's house. I didn't take over, she said, plating golden toast. I improved it. He stared at the table. 2 plates, syrup, whipped cream, powdered sugar. She even folded the napkins into weird little triangles. You should smile more, she added, handing him a mug. You look like someone who got a paper cut on $1 million check. He almost laughed. Almost. Instead, he took a bite of the toast and groaned. Okay, that's unfair. Told you. Charlotte leaned on the counter, sipping her cocoa. You're welcome again. For a moment, it was oddly normal. He didn't feel like a billionaire. She didn't feel like a stranger. They were just 2 people in the middle of a snowstorm eating French toast and vibing to brandy. Do you always cook for strange men after delivering tacos? Carter asked, genuinely curious. Charlotte grinned. Only if they've got nice countertops and lonely eyes. He paused mid-bite. I do not have lonely eyes. Oh, please. You've got the whole I hate people but secretly crave affection vibe down to a science. He chuckled, for real this time. You psychoanalyzing me now? Charlotte tapped her temple. I moonlight as a therapist/delivery driver. So what's your real gig? He asked. Because this energy doesn't scream minimum wage. She set her mug down with a small sigh. Well, If we're being real, I'm saving up to launch my food truck. I've got the recipes, the branding, the name. Just need a working engine and a miracle. Let me guess. Carter sipped his coffee. Rockhead's Real Eats? Boom. You do have a brain under that tragic bedhead. He narrowed his eyes. Tragic. Very. They laughed, and for a moment the penthouse didn't feel so sterile. The winter outside softened. Inside the air grew warm with laughter, sugar, and sarcasm. So, Charlotte Rockhead, he said, leaning back in his seat, you break into kitchens, insult billionaires, and cook like a goddess. What's your deal? Her smile faltered just a little. You want the polished version or the real one? Always real. She bit her lip. All right. Grew up in Jersey, raised by my Nana, who taught me that a full belly heals more than a full wallet. I've been working 2, sometimes 3 jobs, hustling for every dollar. But food? Food makes me happy, and I'm damn good at it. Carter nodded slowly. I can see that. She tilted her head. Your turn. What's your damage, rich boy? He chuckled, but it faded quickly. Raised by nannies. My parents believed in business, not birthdays. Built my first app at 15, sold my second company at 22. Since then, it's been interviews, IPOs, and fake friends. I have more staff than real relationships. Charlotte studied him. You know what you need? Therapy? A dog? A hug? She smiled. A taco stand in your soul. He blinked. Is that a thing? It should be. Just then, a slow jam came on the playlist, and Charlotte's eyes lit up. Ooh, this is my jam. She stood and offered her hand. Dance with me, Winslow. I don't dance, he said, alarmed. You haven't lived until you've body rolled with a woman named Rockhead. Come on. She yanked him to his feet before he could argue, and just like that, they were swaying in the middle of his pristine living room. She moved with ease, fluid, bold, playful. He was stiff, confused, and trying not to step on her fuzzy socks. Charlotte laughed. You've got the rhythm of a malfunctioning fax machine. Carter raised a brow. Wow, that's dated and offensive. But honest. They spun. He stumbled. She caught him, and for a heartbeat, their faces were inches apart. The music softened. The world paused. Carter's hand slid to her waist. Charlotte's smile wavered. His voice was barely above a whisper. You're not what I expected, she whispered back. You're exactly what I expected. Except funnier and taller. Their eyes met. They leaned in. Just as lips were about to brush, the sound of a snowplow scraping the road broke the moment. Charlotte stepped back, cheeks flushed. Roads are clearing. Carter blinked, like waking from a dream. Right. She cleared her throat, brushing non-existent lint off her sleeve. Guess I should get going. Yeah, he said, though it sounded like a question. She grabbed her jacket, suddenly moving fast. Thanks for the couch. And the weird but excellent overnight experience. Carter stood by the door, watching her. She looked up at him with a teasing smile. Don't miss me too much. And then she was gone, stepping into the now clear streets, leaving behind nothing but the smell of cinnamon and the warm echo of what could have been. The silence in Carter Winslow's penthouse wasn't peaceful anymore. It was awkward, loud in all the wrong ways, and echoing with the sound of Charlotte Rockhead's laughter, still bouncing off the marble. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling window with a mug of untouched coffee, watching the city thaw. The snowplows had done their job. Life was moving on. But Carter? He was stuck. In 24 hours, his ultra-curated life had been flipped upside down by a woman who didn't care about his money, mocked his granite countertops, and cooked French toast like it was a love language. And now she was gone. He glanced at the bag on his kitchen counter. Inside, tucked between 2 leftover tacos, was a business card. Rockhead's Real Eats. If your food isn't hugging your soul, it ain't real. Handwritten beneath it in loopy cursive. You still owe me a dance rematch. C.R. Carter smiled. And then he picked up his phone. 3 days later, Charlotte Rockhead stared at the cracked window of her food prep kitchen in the Bronx, waiting for the water to boil. She was exhausted and annoyed with herself. She'd spent the last 72 hours thinking about a man who probably forgot her the moment she left. Carter Winslow was rich, refined, and far too complicated for someone like her. Sure, he was awkward, uptight, weird about throw pillows. But he had also laughed like a kid and looked at her like she mattered. And that near kiss? Well, that lived rent-free in her brain. Suddenly, her phone rang. "Hello," she answered, balancing it between her cheek and shoulder as she prepped tortillas. "Is this Rockhead's Real Eats?" She froze. That voice. "Carter," she said, nearly dropping a spoon. There was a pause. "I figured you might hang up if I led with my name. You've probably had better customers." Charlotte grinned even though he couldn't see it. "Definitely better dancers." "I'm working on that," he said quickly. "Actually, I wanted to talk business. Can I take you to breakfast?" She paused, suspicious. "Is this a trap to get me to cook for you again?" "No," he said, and then added, "Maybe, but mostly no. Just meet me." 30 minutes later, the Upper East Side, corner diner. Carter waited nervously in a booth by the window. He wore jeans, actual jeans, and a hoodie with a food stain he hadn't noticed until after he sat down. Progress. Charlotte arrived 5 minutes late, smelling like cinnamon and citrus, and wrapped in confidence as usual. "You're lucky I didn't ghost you," she said, sliding into the booth. "I'm lucky you answered," Carter replied. She narrowed her eyes playfully. "So, why am I here? Tacos? Therapy? Closure?" He took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about your food truck idea." Charlotte blinked. He continued, fumbling slightly. "I know it's personal. I know you want to do it your way. But I'd like to help." Her expression shifted. "Help? How?" "Invest," he said plainly, but with no strings attached, no logos, no control, just support. You do you. I just believe in what you're building." She studied him. "You sure this isn't about guilt or attraction?" Carter leaned in. "Both probably have something to do with it. But mostly it's about that French toast, that taco that changed my life, that laugh that made my house feel alive." Charlotte blinked. Her sass faltered for half a second. "Carter, I want to be around that," he added. "Not just the food." "You?" She stared at him. "You're really doing the whole sweet billionaire thing, huh?" He nodded, awkwardly hopeful. "Trying my best." She exhaled. "Okay, I'll think about the investment." He smiled. "But," she added, smirking, "only if you pass my cooking boot camp. You'll start as a line cook." Carter laughed. "Deal. As long as there's no salsa dance evaluations involved, no promises." 1 month later, opening day, Rockhead's Real Eats, pop-up edition. The line wrapped around the block. A bright sunshine yellow food truck stood proudly parked at the corner of a busy Manhattan street, with bold letters painted in graffiti-style font, "Rockhead's Real Eats, flavor that fights back." Charlotte wore a custom apron and a headset, shouting orders with the glee of a woman who was finally in her element. And beside her, Carter Winslow, wearing a matching apron that read, "Taco Trainee," sweating as he chopped onions like his billion-dollar reputation depended on it. Customers laughed. Phones recorded. The internet had a meltdown over the awkward billionaire who left his tech empire to flip tacos with a curvy queen. But Carter didn't care. Not when Charlotte leaned over during a lull and whispered, "You're not totally useless in the kitchen, Winslow." He grinned. "Are you flirting with your employee?" "Co-founder," she corrected. "Still deciding if I'll give you health benefits." He smirked. "Do kisses count as coverage?" She raised a brow. "Only premium packages." Carter stepped closer. "I'm ready to upgrade." Charlotte shook her head, but her lips were already forming that smile, the one that made him forget the world. And there, in the back of a food truck filled with noise, color, and love. The billionaire who had everything finally found the one thing he didn't know he needed. A woman who delivered more than tacos. She delivered home. 1 year later, the line outside Rockhead's Real Eats was longer than ever. What started as a taco pop-up had exploded into a full-blown food empire. 2 trucks, 1 flagship restaurant in Brooklyn, a cookbook in the works, and a late-night show appearance where Carter accidentally spilled guacamole on a talk show host's lap, making headlines for all the right reasons. But none of that mattered this morning, because inside their Brooklyn kitchen, surrounded by bubbling pots and the aroma of fresh chorizo, Charlotte Rockhead Winslow was standing barefoot, icing a tiny pink smash cake. "Think she'll dive face first or start polite?" Carter asked, leaning against the counter in sweatpants, baby monitor in hand. Charlotte smirked. "She's my daughter. That cake's not surviving 10 seconds. Their 1-year-old Sage cooed on the screen, already wide awake in her crib, babbling to her stuffed avocado. Carter walked over and wrapped his arms around Charlotte's waist. "You know, I used to think peace came from silence." She leaned into him, smiling. "And now? Now I know it comes with cinnamon, loud music, and a baby who throws tacos at my laptop." Charlotte laughed. "That's love, baby." They kissed, slow and sweet. In the distance, the sound of customers lined up and a sizzling skillet reminded them. Life was deliciously full. Not perfect, not quiet, but real. And real was exactly what they'd waited for. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye. See you in our next video.